morning. As Multnomah County's district attorney, I acknowledge the deeply rooted emotions involved in the nightly demonstrations that have unfolded in our community in response to the murder of George Floyd. These demonstrations are being used to righteously express grief, anger, and frustration over that senseless act of violence and the countless other abuses people of color have endured throughout history at the hands of the criminal legal system. It is important to me that the voices of the protesters be heard. And frankly, hearing alone is not enough. If we are going to be responsive to this current moment and the demands from the community who are calling for criminal justice reform, we must implement far more robust changes to this system. This policy on how my office will handle protest-related cases in the current context is just a start. This policy acknowledges that the factors that lead to the commission of criminal activity during a protest are incredibly complex. The protesters are angry, yes, deeply frustrated with what they perceive to be structural inequities in our basic social fabrics. And this frustration can escalate to levels that violate the law. Some of those violations are impermissible by any standard, resulting in physical violence, injury, and worse. Others represent the instinctive reactions of people who have been gassed repeatedly, who have been struck with kinetic projectile weapons, and who have seen other protesters arrested in ways that they deeply disapprove of. This policy acknowledges that centuries of disparate treatment of our black and brown communities have left deep wounds, and that the healing process will not be easy or quick. This policy acknowledges that our county dollars are extremely limited and that prosecutions should be guided by what the data tells us about how to best invest these dollars to maximize public safety, and that many people who have been arrested during these protests for low-level offenses come to us with little to no prior criminal history, and we have little to no reason to believe that they will reoffend. This policy acknowledges that interactions with criminal justice system can leave lasting consequences and foregone educational, housing, and economic opportunities, and the tools of this system must therefore be used sparingly. It is through that lens that I announce that moving forward, the District Attorney's Office will presumptively decline to issue criminal charges which result solely from the participation in a protest or mass demonstration when the most serious offense is either a city ordinance violation, such as a curfew violation, or when the crime does not involve deliberate property damage, theft, or the use or threatened use of force against another person. Crimes that presumptively fall under this category include interfering with a police officer, disorderly conduct, criminal trespass, escape in the third degree, harassment, and sometimes, in some circumstances, riot. I will also be directing my deputies to take a particularly hard look at cases involving resisting arrest and assault of a public safety officer if those cases occurred while an individual was being tear gassed or otherwise exposed to a use of force at the time of the resistance. Now, I've not described the entire policy, but I'm available to discuss aspects of it. I want to make it very clear, though, this is not a free pass. While I will do what I can to provide protesters with a forum to make their voices heard, I will not tolerate deliberate acts of violence against police or anyone else. Engage in that type of conduct, and you should expect to be prosecuted. Nor does this policy change Oregon law. Law enforcement retains the ability to arrest any person who they believe has violated any law, including those I've mentioned above. This policy recognizes that in order to advance public safety, we must not only prevent crime, but we must also promote the economic and housing stability, educational opportunities, strong family and community relationships, mental and physical health, and build trust with everybody in our community. And this is only the start. Thank you. I want to acknowledge all of the individuals who have helped me with this new policy, my transition team, a base of community members who are helping me put together policies as I transition into the District Attorney's Office, Here with me today are some members from my transition team, including Ricardo Lujan Valerio, Casey Jama, Kevin Modica, and Lakiana Drury. Also with me is Senior DDA Nathan Vasquez, who has been leading my office's efforts related to the protest cases. I've asked each of them to be here with me today to say a few words about their thoughts on this policy and the protests happening nightly on our streets.